Welcome back to Short Time with Vin and Dave. Vin Avenue, Dave Crossan with you as we enter another summer show. Dave, you know what's great about summer at the Jersey Shore?
What is great about summer at the Jersey Shore?
Boardwalks, barbecues, lots of sunshine, good breezes, reading a good book, and listening to the Financial Wake-Up Call.
Wow, buddy. I don't know. I think, is that a list? Like, is there an order in which people would put down, like, my favorite Jersey Shore event,
Put it
and I'm
you
on
want.
that list?
You know, while you're
Okay.
firing up the grill, cooking some eggs and bacon this morning,
Okay.
Dave will fire up the Financial Wake-Up Call.
Okay, all right. Okay.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right, my friend. Well, let's talk about something that everybody it's out there. I mean, interest rates are going up, and there's, so what does that mean? The cost of money, if you go get yourself a mortgage, it's going to be more expensive, higher interest rate, an auto loan. But there are some positive things that are occurring with rates going higher. Number one, we're starting to see it in the banks. And what do I mean by that? Savings accounts, different money markets that are out there that, let's say, for example, you went into wanting to have an emergency fund. I always talk about this. People need to have 3 to 6 months worth of expenses in a liquid account, like a money market or a savings account. And we're starting to see those interest rates go higher. And that's important for people that want something safe, put it in a place to be able to make some interest. I saw something the other day with a bank that was offering a 2-year CD was over 2%.
Oh.
Now, again, let's go back in time. I mean, it was at a point where we were getting less than 1%. Now we're starting to creep up a bit, and that's good for a lot of our seniors that need a place to put safe money, or like I talked about with emergency funds, a place that at least we can make some interest on money that we need to have available at a moment's notice at a particular time. Or like I mentioned before, with a CD, which is a certificate of deposit, or unfortunately up to this point, it seems like more of a certificate of disappointment because of the lack of interest rate. But with that being said, those rates are going higher, so that is a good thing for those reasons. Now, let's shift gears a little bit here and talk about, unfortunately, with interest rates, when interest rates go higher, that can have a negative impact on a bond. And you're saying, well, David, what is a bond? And I'll use an example of you and I, for example. First of all, what is a bond? Let's say it could be a municipal bond, it could be a government bond, it could be a corporate bond where it's issued, it's a debt. So let's say you're a corporation, Vin. There you go. And I give you $10,000. All right, and we make a deal and say, Vin's company, whatever your company is, all right, Vin Incorporated, there you go. So I give you $10,000 and you set up a term that says, okay, for the next 10 years, you're going to pay me 4% or $400 a year. And at the end of those 10 years, you have to give me back that principal. There you go. Nice and simple.
All right.
The benefit to you is you may be able to use that money to retire some debt that is more expensive, that you're paying a higher interest rate on. Or you're able to use it to expand something in your company. That 4% interest rate to you is very attractive because you're able to do better and expand and maybe build a new plant or hire some new employees or whatever the situation may be. So that's the agreement. Okay, but now consider this. When interest rates go higher, the cost gets more expensive. So for an individual like myself, I may say to myself, I may not want to go too far out with a bond because let's say I have to redeem it early. Well, the problem is if interest rates go higher, my bond price will go lower. So let's use the example again. Let's say it was a 10-year bond at 4%. Okay, and I put that $10,000 in there. And then 6 months later, it's at 5%. Same terms. Well, that 4% offering is now going to be at a lower price because I can now 6 months later get one at 5%. Again, this is just purely an example.
Right.
So where am I going with this? I do have a direction, actually. Here we go. Hop in the car. Let's gas up the car and let's go with this.
There we go.
Okay. So a strategy that can be used during a time of rising interest rates where people do have that concern that they may need money during a particular time frame is to do what is called a bond ladder.
Okay.
Picture like laddering something out with different maturities. They may say, okay, we're going to invest in a bond that's 2 years out. The next bond, 4 years, 6 years, 8 years, 10 years. What is the objective? The objective is that every couple years, money is coming due and becomes available. Now, if they need that money, they can use that money. But let's say that 2 years goes by. Now you have that principal back because the date has matured. The maturity date has happened because it was only a 2-year bond. I can now take that money and put it back at the end of the ladder. Do you see where I'm going with this? So if I'm going 10 years out, but I'm investing some at a 2-year duration, 4-year, 6-year, 8-year, 10-year, when that money comes due, I can put that at the end of the ladder, back out to the 10 years because everything's moved up 2 years. And if rates are higher, now I'm getting a higher rate than I did on that 10-year duration that is now 8 years.
I like
you see where I'm going with this?
Yeah, I like the ladder analogy.
Yeah, I'm going up the ladder. And again, the nice thing about it is if I need money or the possibility of needing money in a shorter term, like the 2-year time frame, that money is now available. Maybe I need to now use that money for a different purpose, and I'm not going to be locked in. But by doing something like this, you're taking advantage of rates going higher. And that's so important because right now, if people want a good interest rate, their thing is, well, I have to buy a long-term bond. I've got to go out 20 years or 30 years. Well, the positive to that is, yes, I am getting a higher interest rate if I go longer term. The hiccup is, the problem with that is, if I do that and I need some of that money back, example like before, let's say I needed some of that money back in 2 years, and I go to sell off what I need from that bond in that 2-year time frame, and rates have increased and have gone higher, well, then guess what? I'm going to get less principal back. So by utilizing this strategy, and I tell people, like, look at different needs that you may have. And the idea behind it is, as we see rates going higher, rates could eventually level off and come down. Now, let's think about that. What if I'm wrong? I can be wrong sometimes. We all can be wrong sometimes.
It happens.
So let's say I set up this nice bond ladder, assuming rates are going to go higher, assuming when that money comes due, I then extend it out to the end of the 10 years because my 2 years has come up. So everything moves up, obviously, accordingly. But what if rates start going lower? Well, David, you're wrong. Or am I? Well, consider this. Let's say rates start to decrease. Well, think about what is going on. The opposite is now true. If rates go lower, bond prices would typically go higher.
Makes sense.
So now the price of these bonds that I have set up should have increased in price. Now we have a situation where, okay, what if I need access to funds? Well, again, I'll have that same maturity in the 2-year.
Right.
But maybe I look at, well, you know what? If I need extra money and rates have gone higher, I would be able to, in most cases, sell this bond at a profit because rates have gone lower. Okay? And the idea behind that is, do I then extend that money out in the ladder with rates lower, or do I utilize that money in a different direction? It gives me options in 2 ways. And what I like about it most is, number one, we're setting something up for what we believe to be happening, the direction we believe rates to be going. But if we're wrong, and it happens, I mean, think about it this way. Rates are going up. But for years and years, many, many years, we've had this conversation. If things shift, and again, 10 years is a long time. Things can shift, level off, and come down. We can actually benefit from that process. But for now, with the way things are and the way things are set up, this is a nice strategy for people. I would say the biggest issue with this, or I shouldn't say issue, benefit would be control of that money. It's good control of money that you're looking simply to get a good interest rate with. And with having the control, you control how things will be laid out and how you invest that money and how you utilize that money. And with having a setup like this, having money available to you every couple of years. And again, I'm just using the example of, every 2 years that you need to set this up. Well, maybe you don't need the money for 3 years or 4 years or a year and a half. You can set it up the way you want it to be set up. Again, the idea behind is make sure that whatever the next event is that you believe you need that money, that the money is available for you.
Right.
Because you don't want a situation where you've put those maturities too far out. Last point I want to make, being that rates have increased, utilizing savings accounts and money markets is attractive simply because there is no maturity. That money can walk in the bank and say, hey, you know what? I need that money. Move it to my checking so I can write a check for this expense or whatever the situation is. That's the advantage of having a savings account or money market is for that purpose. There isn't a maturity. Now, that's one part of it. But again, you're going to get a lesser or lower rate, I should say. With a staggered maturity with these bonds, the idea is to get a higher rate. The only disadvantage is you have to wait the 2 years to get that maturity. And again, if rates go higher, to make sure that the bond matures, you don't want to be in a situation where you're having to sell prior to that maturity, because if rates keep increasing, that bond price most likely would be less than what you paid for it. And that's that, Vin.
There we go.
And there it is. I wanted to bring that up because I think it's so important, especially with what we're seeing right now, that good things can come from what we're seeing.
Sure.
I think a lot of people are scared because they're seeing their mortgage rates go up, or the ability to get a mortgage and rates are higher, or an auto loan, or whatever the situation is. But on this side of it, there are some ways to play it, if you will, or set yourself up in a way to take advantage of interest rates going higher. And that's it. That's it.
There it is. Sage advice from...
Did you like how I turned you into a corporation? Vin Incorporated. There you go. Thank you for letting me use you as the example corporation.
Kind of like the sound of that.
There you go.
Dave, people can reach the show short time at townsquaremedia.com. Where can they get in touch with you to learn more about this and other topics as well at Shoreline Wealth Management?
Thank you. Phone number, 732-902-7880. Notice I'm reading from my card. I'm always afraid I'm going to give out the cell phone.
Gotta remember.
Okay, I got to remember. Or, of course, visit us at shorelinewealth.com with offices in lovely Manchester and Manahawkin.
And there it is. Go visit Dave. Give him a call.
Come on by.
He'll help you out.
Exactly.
He's a good guy. We got more of the show coming up next. It is Toms River's own and UFC fighter Frankie Edgar, graduate of Toms River High School East as well, an alumni and a UFC fighter who trains still in the area as well. And we'll get to talk to him about his career in UFC and his fighting career and even the wrestling days back at Toms River High School East. Frankie Edgar coming up next on Short Time with Vin and Dave on 94.3 The Point and 105.7 The Hawk. The opinions voiced in this show are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. This information is not intended to be a substitute for individualized legal advice. Please consult your legal advisor regarding your specific situation. CDs are FDIC insured to specific limits and offer a fixed rate of return if held to maturity, whereas investing in securities is subject to market risk, including loss of principal. While bond laddering may allow you to circumvent interest rate risk and reinvestment risk by holding individual bonds until maturity, the strategy can have other risk, default risk, research complexity, diversification risk, and high trading costs.
Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA SIPC.
Whether you are in the early stages of investing, getting ready to retire, or planning your estate, you need a financial planner who will guide you on a clear path with honesty and transparency. Shoreline Wealth Management provides clarity through the complexity. Shoreline's system is straightforward. They will understand your financial circumstances, identify goals, analyze current plans, and customize a path to position you to reach your goals. Shoreline Wealth Management is your financial anchor. Visit shorelinewealth.com for more information today. Shorelinewealth.com. Securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA SIPC.
Hi, this is Southside Johnny from the Asbury Jukes, and you are listening to Short Time with Vin and Dave on 94.3 The Point and 105.7 The Hawk. And I'm in the Hall of Fame.
Welcome back to Short Time with Vin and Dave. Vin Avenue, Dave Crossan with you, and joining us here this hour is Frankie, the Answer Edgar, a Toms River native and fellow Toms River High School East alumni and currently UFC fighter, championship fighter, and glad to have you in here. Welcome into the studio, Frankie.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
Good to have you here today. Thank you.
So we want to, of course, talk about the roots, obviously coming from Toms River, from the short of the show, so to speak, and your career to this point as well. But way back when, because obviously I've read that Coach Warren Reed was a big influence on you, a big part certainly of you becoming one of the best wrestlers in the country back at Toms River East, and on your career now. And he's obviously impacted so many other wrestlers over the course of his career as well, and the Hall of Fame coach and everything. But first, what impact did Coach Reed have on you while you were in high school, and what are some things that have stuck with you while inside the ring, and how to have a career and be a good person?
Yeah, I mean, I was lucky to be in Reed's presence and end up in his room. To be honest with you, he's a special individual. Obviously, the only coach at high school. He's still there. He has a storied career himself, and he's just such a hard-nosed guy, and an old school kind of guy, and just taught you the basics of how to get it done, how to be gritty, and that stuck with me forever. Obviously, I remember a story I always tell Reed is, about Reed is he was, obviously getting on us for a little bit. Maybe guys were slacking on it in the practice, and he got up. He's like, "Man, if my coach told me to run through a wall, I'd run through a wall." And I was like, "Man, I was like, point to the wall, man. I'm running, And I knew in order to get it done, he was, go hard or go home. Like, he was only one speed to get to do this, and he's still that guy. He still works out every day. He's still coaching every day, so he's a special person.
What were some of the workouts like, on a daily basis within the wrestling? I mean, I know it was different with doing football, doing track for myself there, but what were some of the wrestling workouts like on a daily basis, either, preparing during the preseason or in between different matches over the course of a season back in high school?
Yeah, Mr. Reed, he runs. I mean, this is kind of the practice guys do today, or the practice we were doing back then 20 years ago. I remember it like the back of my hand. Actually, you run 2.2 miles, and then you go 12 sets of stairs. Come in, do pull-ups, Oklahoma 12s, which is like a circuit with a curl bar. Do your lift, jump rope. And then you come and practice for about 2.5 hours. So yeah, it was a pretty extensive season, and always tough on you. But I mean, if you put the time in, if you did everything Reed wanted you to do, you were 100% prepared for that match.
What about wrestling that you just enjoyed so much that you dedicated pretty much your life to?
I just like the fact that it's a one-on-one sport. For me, I did team sports growing up, and it was good. I had some success, but wrestling obviously really drew to me. Just the fact that it's one-on-one, and you can't point the finger, and you can you get all the recognition when it does go well for you. So you really have to look yourself in the mirror, when things aren't going good, and it's just such a hard-nosed sport, and I feel, every sport, I feel like you could be taught many things from every sport. Sports are great for kids. I'm 100% supportive of all sports, but wrestling to me obviously holds a special place in my heart. It's just, it's a little different than other sports because it's one-on-one, because it takes so much discipline and sacrifice. A lot of weight cutting and practices during the holidays. It's a special person to become a wrestler.
What have been the challenges, both, I guess, on the mental front from your wrestling days back at East through college and obviously your UFC career, but also the weight part of it, too, with trying to either lose weight or gain weight or try to stay within, I guess, the confines of that particular class? How tough is that?
It's not fun, but it's kind of part of it, unfortunately. I think it is changing a little bit. You're seeing in the wrestling world, people are starting to cut a little bit less weight. I think it's better for kids, developing not to, cut too much weight. But it is just part of the game for some reason, and you could do it poorly, you could do it the right way. Luckily, I was always a pretty disciplined person, and I was, prepared the right way, even outside of the room. And that matters, when it comes to diet a lot. You got to be pretty disciplined. Or you could, not be disciplined and have to lose like 10 pounds the day of a match. And then that's when it really stinks,
I could see that being somewhat problematic.
Yeah, oh yeah.
How have you developed the diet routine over the years through fighting, but also your workout routine, which has, I guess, become legendary within its own in what you do in the gym or working out, how much you lift, how often you lift, even today, how do you go about putting together the workout plan that works best for you to keep up with your strength, build on strength, and keep yourself in good shape?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely been like a trial and error over the years. You know, like I've said, I've been doing this for, I've been competing in sports since I was 13, so almost 30 years, you know, and it's been, some trial, like I said, trial and error. Some things work, some things don't. You cut the fat, figure out what's best for, the time being, depending on an opponent or the season or whatever it may be. But you got to constantly just sharpen that axe. So, in all aspects, especially if you want to have the longevity. I've been in this game, like in UFC for going on over 15 years now, and to have that longevity and stay on top, it's you got to constantly mix it up, and have the right people around you. And luckily, like I had Reed, was my high school wrestling coach, and the people I surround myself now with are really great coaches too, and pretty much the same people I worked out since day one. So to have that consistency, constantly staying on the grind, just you develop what works and what doesn't.
I know in the ring, or at least I've noticed, and certainly you know better, you kind of have that quick reaction or agility. So how do you try to find the balance between, lifting to build strength, but not lifting too much to where you don't have as much flexibility?
Yeah, you got to, like I said, I surround myself with good people, so I have a good strength coach for that. He kind of picks what we do, what we don't do, and it's mixed martial arts, so I have to. It's not just like, we don't go just play baseball all day. You're playing baseball, you're playing baseball. But I mean, I guess in baseball, like, they have pitching coaches, they have infield coaches, they have batting coaches. So they kind of have their different separations too. So for me, I go to wrestling for one practice, I go to jiu-jitsu for another practice, a strength and conditioning, a boxing coach, and then I have to go on 3 days a week and put all those together in a sparring session. So it's a lot of details involved.
Do you split up the timing of your workouts, like do mornings or afternoons or nights?
Yeah, I usually do 2 practices a day, pretty much. I'll squeeze in a 3 a day every once in a while, but usually 2 a day. I'll do a 10 o'clock and maybe a 3 or 4 o'clock at night.
Do you feel much of a difference?
As far as the morning and night? Yeah, I guess they say you're more. I think that there's studies out there, and they say I think you're more. You lift more. You're more attentive in the afternoon. But I'm just so accustomed to get up in the morning and training, just because I need, not enough time in the day to do it all at night. So I like to split it up.
I guess, and you have 3 kids at home, right?
I do. Yes. Yep.
And one of them, I believe, is wrestling himself, right? One of your sons?
Yeah, well, they both wrestle for the intermediate school, but one of them is wrestles more, he's a little more involved with it. My older one plays football. My daughter does gymnastics.
Nice. Was that stuff that they all wanted to pick, or did you encourage any of them to go after or go into wrestling or MMA?
I definitely guided them towards wrestling, for sure. My older one, he didn't take as much, but again, he does wrestle for the intermediate school.
Nice.
He wrestled a lot as a young kid, but now football's his passion now, so definitely supporting that.
Whether it's I guess wrestling or just with all 3 of your kids being athletes, what are some of the things that you've learned yourself over the years that you want to pass on to your kids with how to prepare physically, mentally? Yeah,
I always tell them just like be on time. It's kind of our job now to get them there on time, but that's something that I'm always a pretty punctual person for all my workouts, and you got to set the tone. The way to set the tone is by being there on time, being ready to go once the whistle blows. In other words, and always I say try to impress your coaches. Whatever field you're in, just. To this day, I've had the same coach 15 years. I still try to impress him every time I'm with him. So, try to impress your coaches and have fun. That's the biggest objective. You got to have fun. That's the whole point of doing this stuff.
Going back to the beginning of your MMA UFC career, when you first got in and started with these fights, what was that like for you? Just kind of, I guess, getting used to that different kind of environment. Different kind of fighters, thousands of people, watching you fight within that complex. How did you make that adjustment from, prior to with high school and college, but now being in a UFC ring, having all eyes on you, and obviously being in a different kind of fighting zone?
Yeah, well, I mean, luckily, to me, at least in your mind, competing's competing, right? One-on-one's one-on-one. So in wrestling, I wanted to win those matches just as bad as I wanted to win my fights,
Sure.
So, for me, there was a lot of similarity in that. Now, granted, I'm not getting punched and kicked, so it's not so much pain involved. And when you're wrestling, I got to wrestle at nationals quite a few times in front of a lot of people, so that wasn't like the first time I've been in front of a crowd.
Yeah, that's right.
And even locally in local shows in my first fights in New Jersey, you got to drive down to Atlantic City to fight. Seeing all the casinos as you're heading down, and you're in a big arena. It has that big fight feel, so it's not like it's the first time you're doing it. But I'll tell you what, the first time I walked in an octagon was for my first UFC fight. I've never was in an octagon at all until my first UFC fight, so it's kind of funny.
And how not only have you gotten used to that, being in the octagon and the different guys you've fought over the years, but just with the fight, and how have you changed your approach over the years based on the fighter, or do you go in to every fight with kind of a mindset of here's what I know I could do, here's what I have to do to try and win this thing, or do you obviously they talk in other sports about these scouting reports, right? Checking out the other pitcher or something like that. Do you do a deep dive into the guys you're fighting and say, all right, well, here are his weaknesses, here's what I should try to exploit?
I'm not a big tape guy. I watch everybody I fight just because I'm a fight fan, so I always watch fights. So I know the style of the guy I'm going to fight because I'm pretty most times I've seen them fight before. But I'm not a big guy to sit down and dissect everything. But I have a coach, Mark Henry, who is he's like the mad scientist. He sits there and breaks down everything and conveys it to me, texts me in the middle of the night, some stuff I should look out for, some stuff I could exploit or do well myself. And I let him do that, and he'll force me to watch certain, clips of a fight, and I'll do that. But I'm not a big, sit down, and I like to kind of like you said, worry about what I do most. It's good to know what he does. Good to have your team have you aware of some things to watch, but I got to worry about myself mostly.
Typically, time frame wise, how much time do you have for a big fight?
To train, to prepare?
Yes.
I usually do 8 weeks is when I'm 100% dialed in. I'll do probably 10 weeks. I don't miss training too much, but 8 weeks I'm dialed in. Diet. No boozing. Stuff like that.
And in preparing for those fights, obviously we talked about as well, the other guys, but yourself. Are you one of those guys that, you win a fight, here's what I did well, here what I could build on, and I guess regardless of whether you win the bout or lose, do you look at it like, here are some things I need to work on, or here's some quickness I need to work on? Do you kind of really self-evaluate with what's working or what's not working, or over the years?
Yeah, for sure. You could learn from fights you lose and you win. So you got to try to do that, and you got to look even. See how your opponents are exploiting you in a fight and try to say, okay, how can I adjust to make sure that doesn't happen again? Yeah, you always got to learn from past fights.
Frankie, I want to get into certainly a lot more with your UFC career, including a special fight that happened 10 years ago. Can you hang with us? Dave and I have to go to a break.
Yeah, I'll make some time for you guys.
Oh, all right. There we go. More Short Time with Vin and Dave and Frankie Edgar right after this.
Hey, it's Chris Carlin from Rutgers Football and 98.7 ESPN in New York, and you're listening to Short Time with Vin and Dave on 94.3 The Point and 105.7 The Hawk. These fellas are entertaining.
Let's face it, investment concepts and financial planning can be very intimidating and confusing. Shoreline Wealth Management addresses that feeling head on. Their goal is to educate you while offering financial advice without buzzwords and jargon. Shoreline includes you in the process and makes you comfortable every step of the way. Shoreline Wealth Management is your financial anchor. Visit shorelinewealth.com for more information and start your financial journey with comfort and security today. Shoreline Wealth Management with offices in Manchester and Manahawkin. Securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA, SIPC.
Welcome back to Short Time with Vin and Dave. Vin Avenue, Dave Crossan with you, and with us here this hour is Frankie Edgar, Toms River native, Toms River High School East alumni and UFC fighter. Frankie, we talked a lot about diet, exercise, certainly your roots in Toms River and with Toms River High School East and Coach Warren Reed, and how you got into the ring and into the octagon and making those adjustments as well. One of the things I want to highlight through our conversation is, back in 2012, so 10 years ago, is when you defeated Bj Penn at UFC 112 to become the UFC lightweight champion. Does it I guess, does it seem like 10 years? And
12,
I know
12 years. That was 2010.
12 years. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That I got confused. So reading it, so
all good,
UFC
all good,
112 and 2012. But I know you fought Bj Penn obviously a couple times. Obviously a legend in his own right and a challenge in the ring for you. But looking back at those big fights with Bj Penn, including becoming a lightweight champion, what does it all mean to you looking back on that? What was it like fighting Bj Penn?
Yeah, that was obviously one of the most memorable moments of my career. Reaching that top spot, being the best in the world, is something I strive for since I was a kid. First time I strapped the wrestling shoes on. So to realize and taste that achievement was amazing, and to get it from a guy like BJ especially. We became friendly over the years. We fought 3 times. But when I fought him at that time, he was like the boogeyman. He was literally running through everybody in the 55-pound division, knocking them out, licking their blood off his gloves, and like he had like an aura about him, And I remember when I got, I knew I wanted the title. I knew that's the guy I wanted to fight. But when you finally got it, it's like, whoa, I'm actually gonna fight Bj Penn. Wow, and it took some self. Convincing, to know I could beat him too, because the media wrote me off, as which I don't blame him. I was kind of a nobody at the time, and I think I might have been 8-1 dog at the moment, and just the people that mattered believed in me, and,
sure,
including myself, so I was able to get it done, and that was definitely a special moment.
Whether it was Penn or Maynard or Jose Aldo, and obviously a bunch of others, who were some of the guys in the ring, whether you won the bout or ended up losing, that really gave you a tough challenge in the octagon over the years?
Yeah, I'd say Aldo. Aldo was very fast, quick guy, hits good, hits hard, good feet, hard to take down. Max Holloway, very big, long rangy, guy. I think both of them are, solid fighters. Even Sandhagen, it's kind of a quick fight I had with him. Didn't really get to mix it up with him, but he's definitely a special guy.
And I know you lost, both fights last year. Where are things currently at for you? I guess from evaluating your career. I know you're obviously still working out and everything. But are you looking at any fights this year or next year? Where do things stand at with your career right now?
Yeah, I'm in the gym. I'm always training, and I'll probably get in there before the end of the year. I'm hoping to. This past year was the year before actually was a little rough. Obviously 2 losses. I had 2 surgeries that year too.
Right.
So I'd like to. Now I got a couple good months under me. I've been feeling pretty good. So maybe jump in there for another one before the year's over.
Are you looking to challenge or fight anybody in particular in the octagon, or whoever kind of comes your way?
Yeah, I'm sure they'll figure out somebody. Someone that I would have always liked to fight that I felt like I haven't got a chance to is Dominic Cruz. He's fighting in August. So I don't know if that's a realistic matchup, but he was the champion when I was a champion. When I was the 55-pound champ, he was the 35-pound champ. So I think that'd be a pretty cool matchup.
Have you noticed any changes since you went into the bantamweight division with the kinds of fights that you're engaging in?
I mean, these guys are just good, man. When I first got into this, there was always UFC was always top notch, and it was like the top 5 guys are pretty tough. Now it's like the top 15 guys are all killers. You're not getting an easy fight in UFC anymore. And yeah, it's just the evolution of the sport. It's amazing what the UFC did for martial arts in such a short time.
I think this sport has certainly grown. UFC over the years just become that much more popular. Certainly, I think around here, and a credit to you, coming from Toms River and the Jersey Shore, I know so many people around Ocean and Monmouth have become engaged in UFC over the years, certainly to watch your fights. But I think nationwide and worldwide as well, I think it's just become so much more of a popular sport. What do you think has led to a lot more people putting their eyes in, whether it's I guess the on-demand matches or on ESPN or wherever else to watch UFC fights, because it's just so fascinating to watch one of these fights?
Yeah, I just think that's the fact that it's this exciting sport. I think number one, if Dana White. I think Dana White did a great job of promoting this, and he says he's like, if there's a basketball game going on one corner a football game going another corner, a baseball game going another, and a fight on the one. He's like, where's everybody going to be? Everyone's going to be at the fight, and we have them every weekend. So, and ESPN too. I think that really, kind of brought it into the mainstream much, much more.
Do you think? Well, I guess whether it's Dana or you and the other guys going into the octagon, what do you think needs to be done to continue to grow this sport and to get more people interested in wanting to join?
Yeah, I think as you're seeing a lot of youth kids start doing it, so and partaking in either boxing, kickboxing, jiu-jitsu, wrestling. So the more the kids get into that, the more they're gonna feel attached to the UFC. I mean, everybody in America plays baseball as a kid,
Right.
and so that kind of gets them into watching it, or soccer and football, all that stuff. So now I think the more the kids start getting exposed to martial arts, they're gonna see it on TV and be interested in it.
Do you think less kids are going toward traditional boxing and more in your direction?
I do, yeah, I really do. In boxing, I think historically you've seen it more in cities, and whereas mixed martial arts, it's like kids are doing it everywhere now.
How much does it help? I guess a bunch of little kids go sign up for karate lessons and everything. Do you think if somebody, even as a kid, or by the time I guess they get to maybe middle school or so, and maybe they're thinking that they do want to be a professional fighter, that they should be becoming more engaged in getting with karate and obviously being on the wrestling team, or should they be involved in other sports as well?
I think it's good to be well-rounded, but if you mixed martial arts is a you could do 3 different sports in mixed martial arts. You could wrestle, you could do jiu-jitsu, and you could do boxing. It's 3 different sports kind of in one. So it's a lot to take on, to also do football and everything else. But I think let a kid try everything, and they're gonna figure out which one they really gravitate to.
When you're in the octagon against whoever, how do you try and determine where you want to go, or what kind of moves you want to try out, or what part of the body you want to try to exploit on your opponent in the octagon to try and get ahead from the very get-go?
Yeah, a lot of times, Mark, my coach, we have a code system, so we're we kind of don't say right hand or left hook. We have different codes that we kind of go about, so he could kind of shout out some instructions to me and I can go to work. So a lot of times what I do is based on what he sees out there, and a lot of times it's based on what he gives me. I throw a feint out there. If I see him react a certain way, then I'm gonna throw that feint and do something else. So a lot of times it's based on what I'm seeing how he reacts.
And I guess when you see the guy in the other side, that you feel like you have some sort of advantage, I guess, inside the octagon. Do you have any particular moves you do as sort of like a closer to try and get a KO or finish up?
Nah, I don't really have a finishing move. I mean, it's not like a video game. AB, you know what I'm saying? I mean, there's some guys that there's stuff that maybe that I like to I'll throw more for something for lands, like overhand lands. I'll probably try to go back to that, stuff like that. Or if I can get a takedown, that's always a pretty deciding finality in end of a round.
When you feel like the fight is not going your way or has over the years, what are some things that you either tell yourself or try and do to come back and try to come back on top?
Yeah, I mean, I've been down really bad before and came back, and I just try to keep doing what my coaches are telling me to do, and constantly keep trying to move to keep scoring, in other words. For lack of term, there's I'm not really scoring points in MMA, but you kind of are in a sense. So just kind of keep attacking, keep trying to wear the guy down, because I feel like my conditioning is something that's one of my strengths. So if I feel like I'm losing maybe first round, second round, I feel like as I turn on, I can maybe turn tides as the fight goes on.
Where do you find some of the strength when you're kind of, I guess, stuck in a corner or a particular spot of the octagon and like, all right, I got to find a way to get this guy off me and try to restore some order or some dominance in the match here?
Yeah, I mean, just based, like, I've been rocked in some fights, and I kind of been on, like, I call it, like, autopilot. I'm not really there, but I'm still reacting, and I think that's a testament to how I train. You're gonna always resort back to how you train. So if you don't train very hard, or you train a little lackluster, or you're not gonna constantly put yourself in bad situations in training, when it happens in a real fight, you're not gonna know what to do. So luckily, no matter when I'm worst in a fight, I've been there in training, so I usually know how to act. for the most part.
I mean, you certainly have done, obviously, a well-noted, outstanding job against the opponents in the ring over the years and stuff like well. And I guess equally got his bruised and bloodied and stuff like that. But when that's going on, the fight, you're kind of, getting some marks under the eyes, whatever. How do you fight through that? Is it a lot of it adrenaline where you're kind of just not really feeling it, just kind of keep on going, no thinking?
Yeah, it's pretty much adrenaline. I always say I think someone could snipe me from the crowd and I wouldn't even know until after the fight. So I mean, I've been in fights where it's, you're getting hit pretty good and you're good. As soon as the whistle blows, fight's over. You're like, damn, where did all this come from? Just to start feeling it pretty quickly.
Whether it's your first victory or your most recent victory or any of them in between. Do they feel different each time you come out on top, or does it feel the same?
In the moment, they all feel amazing, and they feel like you've never felt it before, So every time you're kind of striving for that feeling.
Do you have I know obviously you're still looking to continue fighting and training and working out and everything. Do you have a set goal for how much longer you want to keep fighting, or just go as long as you possibly can? Honestly,
if I could, I'd fight forever. But I really would. I enjoy it. It's not work to me. But if I'm, I don't want to be selfish to my family. So I'll probably got one more in me.
And what has it been like? I guess your family, your wife, parents, your circle of friends and everything. What has it meant to have their support over the years and to be able to have those tough conversations in times as well?
Yeah, I mean, that's what it's all about. I have a close-knit, family around me. I have the same people that have been coming to my fights. My first fight in the Bronx back in 2005, will be at my last fight, whenever it may be. And, the people you have around you is what it's all about. I mean, listen, the accomplishments are great, but it's all the memories in between accomplishments that really stick out the most.
That's awesome, Frankie, and I appreciate you coming in and joining us to discuss everything from your roots to your UFC career, and obviously wish you all the best with the rest of your career and whatever comes after that. So we're always here rooting for you.
I thank you guys. Thanks so much.
Thank you for your time. Really appreciate
my pleasure.
it.
Good times.
That is Toms River native, Toms River High School East alumni and UFC fighter Frankie the Answer Edgar joining us here this morning on Short Time with Vin and Dave. More of the show coming up next.
Hi, this is high performance executive coach Dana Cavalier and former director of strength and conditioning for the New York Yankees. And you're listening to Short Time with Vin and Dave on 94.3 The Point and 105.7 The Hawk. It's always great to hang with champions, and these two guys are champions.
Let's face it, investment concepts and financial planning can be very intimidating and confusing. Shoreline Wealth Management addresses that feeling head on. Their goal is to educate you while offering financial advice without buzzwords and jargon. Shoreline includes you in the process and makes you comfortable every step of the way on your path to financial freedom. Shoreline Wealth Management is your financial anchor. Visit shorelinewealth.com for more information today. Shoreline Wealth Management, with offices in Manchester and Manahawkin. Securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA SIPC.
Welcome back to Short Time with Vin and Dave. Vin Ebonu, Dave Crossan with you. And Dave, it was a fantastic show, a very
great show, buddy.
Themed show,
yes,
if you will, right? So we had Frank Trenkle on first. He is the New Jersey District 18 Little League coordinator and Section 3 New Jersey Little League coordinator. And it was good to hear from him. Certainly, we know how good the teams are around Ocean County and the Shore.
And I didn't even grow
baseball.
up. I grew up north,
That's
and
right.
I knew how great Toms River teams are in this area for baseball.
It's even in recent years, the 10, 11, 12-year-olds, even the 13-year-olds now who were with the 12-year-old team last year at Toms River East Little League, they're starting to make quite a run themselves, too, in that particular bracket.
Oh, absolutely.
But I thought Frank got into real good depth with the 4 new teams this year at the World Series, 2 international, 2 American, the new division that New Jersey is in, how each of the districts work in terms of playoff runs and championships and stuff like that. It was just fantastic. And Little League Baseball is so exciting, whether you're playing it, coaching it, or watching
and just to
it.
see this talent develop over the years, that you're like, wow, you can see this individual, this player is going to be something, and to see it and coming from this area, it's tremendous.
And that's exactly it. I think, especially recently, since guys like Todd Frazier were on that 1998 Tom's River East Little League team that won the World Series, I guess growing up, our parents like, hey, you know what? Todd Frazier's there, and they point out. I think they've done Major League Baseball's done a better job in the last 5-10 years or so of pointing out, hey, this guy was on a Little League World Series championship
Good
team,
point.
not just Todd Frazier, but others. And it's like, when parents tell their kids, hey, you know what? You work hard, you play hard, you could be in the majors.
There's
one
the
day.
example. Look at Todd.
Even
and what
if you don't
did.
win the World Series, lots of Little League kids who play Little League Baseball become major leaguers.
Absolutely.
So, hey, anything's possible.
Exactly.
That's what makes it exciting
when you see
to watch.
the path, it feels possible.
Yeah.
Okay, here's somebody who did it. I can do that too.
Yeah, build up the hope. Hey, you could do it if you really work hard. Somebody else from our area who's worked hard over the years and become a nationwide and a worldwide name is Frankie Edgar.
What a great guy. Great interview.
Tom's River High School East alumni. Still very proud of his roots. Great family, great group of friends who've always been there for him. And, I think if you're from Tom's River, you want to watch Frankie's fights.
Right.
I obviously have over the years as well. But just watching it's amazing. It's like you feel like you're there. And it's amazing watching him fight. Certainly wishing him all the best with the rest of his career.
You know what he said that I thought was awesome, talking about his career, and just he's got a lot of respect for the people that he's around, his coaches, and different things that he was saying about even to this day, he wants to impress his coaches. It's not like he's come this far and he's learning, he's growing, he's still challenging himself to such a high level that all his success, there's more to do. And like he said, he wants to do this for as long as he can. It was very inspiring just listening to him.
He is just a fantastic guy. He's certainly humble as well.
Oh, very humble.
Works
I picked
hard.
that up too.
And he's a fantastic fighter. He's one of the best fighters in UFC history.
Right.
And again, I'm wishing him all the best. So fantastic show. Frank Trankel, Frankie Edgar, very sports themed show. And we've got another good show on deck, of course.
Yes, we do.
Next week. Don't want to give too much away.
Right. Put it out there. What do you got?
See, our
Tease
first
it a
guest is
bit.
going to talk about some food, some restaurants, all in one particular area of Monmouth County that you may not know about.
There it is.
That you'll definitely want to go visit.
Okay, all right.
Our other guest definitely has a story to tell.
Yes.
Somebody looking for some clarity, for some answers.
Yeah.
Somebody from the Jersey Shore, from Monmouth County as well.
Looking forward to that conversation.
It's just an impactful conversation that we're looking forward to having with her next week. So that'll be something you want to stay tuned to.
Great show.
Check out our website, our app this week, and we'll let you know who those guests are. Dave, have a great Sunday ahead.
Absolutely. Thank you, my friend. And thank you for all the listeners out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Email us, shorttime@townsquaremedia.com. Have a great Sunday, a great week ahead. More Short Time with Vin and Dave a week from now on 94.3 The Point and 105.7 The Hawk. Until then, we're out.
Good things.
Hi, this is Christy Pierce-Rampone, former U.S. women's soccer team captain, Olympic gold medalist, World Cup champion, and Point Borough High School alum. And you're listening to Short Time with Vin and Dave on 94.3 The Point and 105.7 The Hawk. Tune in for some real conversation with Dave and Vin. You don't want to miss this.